gonna be here next.
We went to,
Yeah, Alan's was birthday today.
she's scared this morning. I probably did, I'm intimidated. He put on a brake for us though. He did, he took it well.
Was there any questions over what I talked about this morning?
No, but I'm thankful for those verses because at some point I am gonna look them all up and delve more deep into them.
For if you wanna go through it.
I got up early this morning, so I get out into my yard before it got hot.
And then that's all you did, then that's,
It was,
I get that.
11:20 when I came out, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Time flies when you're having fun.
If there's not any questions over that, I'll talk a minute about another deal that I found in here about the signs of the times. Some of the things that Jesus and other of our prophets have said that we needed to look for as a sign that this age might be drawing to a close. And the first thing on this list is the acceptance of immoral behavior. I want some comments.
The acceptance of immoral behavior.
But that's been going on.
Our world.
Oh, gosh, for 30 years.
No.
And steadily getting
Probably
worse.
3,000 years, but
Yeah, probably 3,000 years, you're right. Yeah.
I mean,
that's
that was
wrong.
how many years ago, starting in the morning, that was BC, right?
oh yes, by far BC.
So people had indiscretions and animalistic desires forever.
Since Eve and Adam.
And it was somewhat accepted even back that far. At least in some groups. But
Now it is worldwide. I don't know if it's worldwide, because I'm not very worldly, but.
It's it is in
United
America.
States, in America, it is, right is wrong and wrong is right.
and it has changed drastically in my lifetime.
And I'm sure that's right. Well, it's changed drastically in my lifetime, but, you know, when things weren't accepted that are just so commonplace now. And something so simple as just watching a TV program. You know, you would never see, I remember when the Dick Van Dyke Show and they didn't even sleep in the same bed.
Yep.
And now,
And the Lucy show?
and now you're getting full on
Mm-hmm.
view if you should watch the right show. Which I personally don't, but.
Yeah. Not supposed to be a spectator sport.
No, it's not. You are right about that. It's not supposed to be.
I listen to so many people talk about it, and I'm like, nope, never watched. Are you kidding? Everybody watches it. No.
No? Oh, not that, no. I mean, just even on,
What does Luke 17:26 through 30 say?
Luke 17?
Luke 17:26 through 30. I could have had it with Bill Mark, but I didn't.
Okay. Just as it is in the days of Noah, so also will it be in the days of the Son of Man. People were eating, drinking, marrying, and being given in marriage up to the day Noah entered the ark. Then the flood came and destroyed them all. It was the same in the days of Lot. People were eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building. But the day Lot left Sodom, fire and sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just like this on the day the Son of Man is revealed.
So, immoral behavior. We've had with us pretty much all of the biblical history. But I think the acceptance of that immoral behavior is more widespread now than it was, at least in the United States. And I don't know that much about the rest of the world. Apparently, some places still kill people for immoral behavior, cut off their hands for theft and stuff like that. So maybe it's not worldwide, but
I'm not sure they do that for biblical reasons, do they? I think they do that just because they're evil and mean.
And don't you think social media and TV and everything that we can, I mean, you can see anything, just like you were saying, you can see anything.
I'm quite sure you can.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
The fourth thing down on this list is explosion of knowledge and freedom of travel. What do y'all think about the explosion of knowledge?
The internet,
Mm-hmm.
and again, television, social media.
Where are you reading from, Bob? Where are you reading from?
I'm reading from study aids in the back of my Bible.
Oh.
Okay, I thought maybe you were in Revelations.
No. I could go there if you were. Apparently Daniel, in Daniel 12:4, prophesied this explosion of knowledge. And that was a long time before Christ. I haven't taken time to really go through this because I was expecting Darrell to be here until noon when he told me he wouldn't be. I've had the time, I just didn't do it.
And that was it, but you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end, and then you will go here and there to increase knowledge. But that almost says something else to me. Well, it does say something else to me. And I don't know, because like when I was a kid, and somebody ingrained this in me somewhere, that in end times, there'll be no more Bibles. People won't be allowed to have Bibles, they'll have to hide Bibles. And that's why I always, each member leave a house, I put a Bible in the attic. And I think that is what that says, is that Daniel's gonna keep those scrolls, and then in the end times, people who need them are gonna know where they're at, are gonna have them, and have access to the knowledge of Christ. Because somebody's gonna be have to spread the word after the rest of us are gone.
And during the tribulation period, I'm thoroughly convinced that there will be, during the last half of it, there will be a portion of time, at least, that having a Bible will be a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember my great grandmother talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's something that, if my interpretations are correct, we're not gonna see. Because, well, I'm old enough, I'm gonna die before that, but, the rapture will come and take all true Christians out before the tribulation. Then there will be many people saved during the tribulation and be martyred for that belief.
Keep going, but there's something I want to talk about.
I think this stuff is.
Well, I went on and I've been kind of, because obviously Daniel 12 is talking about, the day, the judgment day, because it talks about, everyone whose name is found written in the book will be delivered. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. So it's talking about the very last day, but anyway, it goes down. It says, from the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits and reaches the end of 1,335 days. Is that the 7 years?
That's the last part of the 7 years,
Oh,
last half.
okay.
The abomination of desolation will be when that's spoken of there, will be when the Antichrist declares to the world that he is God and must be worshipped as God, and will enter the temple that should be built in Jerusalem before that, and he will there proclaim that he is God. A partial fulfillment of that was back in the Roman days when one of the Roman generals, and I know his name and can't think of it right now, sacrificed a pig on the altar. And a pig was an abomination unto the Jewish people.
Unclean.
More comments? Because what I'm doing now is trying to start conversation.
When Dan was asked how long it would be, or he saw in his vision, he saw the man clothed in linen, who I guess we could say was probably the Lord. He lifted his right hand and his left hand toward heaven and heard him swear by him who lives forever, saying it will be for a time, times, and a half a time. So if that's not,
That's 3.5 years.
yeah,
A time,
a time.
times, and a half a time.
3.5 years.
That's the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. The end times prophecies has been a favorite of mine, the study of it. And I don't know everything. I don't even know as much as I wish I knew. But I have learned a little. Arrogance and godliness will abound. Godlessness, of course, not all people are going to be that way. But well, I heard Leslie say something about her, I don't know, a few months back, that she went down to the cafe one morning about 8 o'clock to meet someone. And she thought that it would be a reasonably safe place to meet since we're a small town. Yet the language was horrible at the table the whole time.
What's bad about that is that's common in most small town diners for some unknown reason.
Back to what he said at first, the acceptance of immoral behavior.
Right, and the arrogance, because we think, oh, it's just what we're saying, it doesn't mean, the word, they're just words, they're just words. That's why I hear people that use those words, they say, they're just words.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but it does. Those
Some
don't.
people think it makes them sound smarter when it don't.
It makes them look like they have less of a vocabulary because they substitute words with that.
if it's like that here, because I always think that, like, when I go see the kids, and I get out and pump gas, it is like a whole, it's like a battleground around me, because there's just people yelling at one another and screaming at one another and cursing at one another and cursing at the people in the store, and it's just, I don't, and it's like that everywhere, I know that, but I think, again, that might be a difference in a smaller town, in a more metropolitan area, is because it's just, because it really does make me think I'm in a war zone. And, but that's just commonplace, and everybody, I never noticed it before, and maybe it wasn't that bad, 4 years ago when I lived there, but I bet it was, and I just didn't notice it.
It may have gotten a little worse too. False prophets, false teachers, false messiahs will abound. I don't know how many people in my lifetime have claims to be God or the Messiah and drawn away a group of people, but some have. It's happened several times.
Wasn't that Jim
Jim
Jones?
Jones was
Was he
one of them.
one of them?
David Koresh was
Waco,
another,
yep.
there was the one that, in California, that they believe the aliens are gonna come and take them, but I don't know what
Jeff-
it's.
Jeffries?
No, that was the one from Utah.
Yeah,
Warren Jeffs.
one Jeff.
Well, I don't memorize their names like y'all do, but I remember one that said he was Jesus' brother. That whole reason he was sent to Earth was because Jesus was sinless, so he couldn't relate to humans, but he could because he had sin in his life.
They have a lot of things.
Yeah, quite a bit.
We were one that was on the internet for a while, and then when she died, they wrapped her in Christmas lights and all, saying that she was going to ascend up into heaven. Dr. Phil even had her on his show once. This is just a couple of years ago.
I don't remember this one.
Yep. She had a lot of followers.
But I think I don't know, because I do read a lot about this kind of stuff, and you hear a lot of that now in music, like what is supposed to be Christian music, and, it's written to entice people to feel a certain way, and not everybody that writes that music is maybe that pure of heart. And how many big churches do we go to now where, they have this great musical program, but who's up there playing those instruments and singing those songs? It's not members of the church. They're paying people to come and do that. And which is crazy to me, but, but it does happen, even in churches that you think wouldn't do that.
I have a friend that lives in Dallas. I was talking to her a couple of weeks ago, and she's been trying to find a good church to get into. She's just started for it. So she went to a couple of them, and she said, Betty, I went to this one, and she said, they had the live music that was like that. And she said it wasn't like gospel. She said it was almost like loud rock music. Them jumping around on stage and everything. She said it's so loud that they actually, when you come in the door, they hand you earplugs to put in. And I said, why not just turn the music down? And she said, I had such a headache that I had to go and sit out in the hall. And she said it was still so loud with earplugs in and sitting out. She said I had to leave. She said the music was just horrendous, but they call it Christian music. So she went to another one, and this church, she said it was like in between, they based it on the Old Testament. She said it was kind of like in between a Catholic church and maybe something else from Roman, but she said you walk in the door, her son goes to it, and she said you do the sign of the cross 3 different times as you're going down the hallway. You start and kind of, bow down and do your sign of the cross and kiss your whatever that you're supposed to act like it. You go a little while further down there, you start and do it again. She said on the 3rd time that you do that, they have a picture there. She said, I don't know if it's one of the disciples, one of the apostles, somebody. But you have to do the sign of the cross and kiss that picture.
Oh my word.
I'm not kissing that everybody else has.
And she said, I passed that part of it by. And then she said, you was walking this big empty room, and the speaker gets up there, there's no chairs or nothing. They do it like, she said, we had to stand there for like 2 hours. But that's because they believe that that's the way people came to listen to God talk and speak in the Old Testament. So that's the way that they think that they should do it.
Well, actually, God, they sat on the side of the hill and they went to people's houses. And
Yeah, I said.
They didn't gather at a church.
they didn't gather and build them.
They didn't stand
I
up
said,
for
that's just weird. She said, I'm not going back to that church.
I'm not sure which one's worse, the kissing of the picture or the Catholic communion where you take a sip after each other.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Not gonna do that either.
yeah.
That's gross. And then supposedly the priest, when everybody's done, and they've done all, and the priest has to finish drinking it, and it's like,
The one in Wichita, the
Oh.
priest is actually the first, and everybody else goes after him.
We all know where their mouths have been.
Ah,
I think in this day and time, the false teachers part of this is very prevalent.
I think so too, because, and again, it's maybe the internet and there's too much knowledge out, but I remember one woman, and I used to watch her every morning when I was getting ready for work, every single morning, and I was like, Joyce Meyer.
Yes.
And I always thought, man, she is really good. I love what she said, I love the things that she said. But now, I watched her the other day, it's like an advertisement for this weight loss thing that she does, and I read where she treats her employees horribly, and it's just horrible to her husband.
she let power take control.
And I guess so, but I don't know whether she was always false, and I just didn't realize it. I don't know, I hope I didn't waste that much time on somebody who was just, but every morning I watched her.
Yeah, I used to watch her every
Then
night.
there's some people that are just in it for the money.
Yeah. Like, Joel Osteen.
You know,
He doesn't even try to pretend that he's,
they wouldn't make millions a year.
Well, I guess he's not a liar about it, at least.
yeah, I guess, but I mean, he really is what they call prosperity preachers.
If you send me $1,000, God will give you
Yes,
10,000 back.
yep. That prey on, well, they used to, they prey on old people in letters and such, but now they don't even need that, they just,
You do
Stand
get
on.
paid preachers right now.
what's next on the list?
Earthquakes and famines. I did a study one time, it's been several years ago. And while I realized that earthquakes have been common throughout history, as far back as I could find records, I found that the stronger earthquakes, rated a 7 or more, were more frequent now than they used to be. There were some always, but and of course, if I understand the Bible right, there is a big earthquake coming. Earthquakes don't happen worldwide, but the Bible says it will. But that's at Jesus' second return. It's not something we need to look for today.
but there's still lots of weather-related oddities, like the hurricane that's on the west coast, because they never have hurricanes over there, right? Very rarely, I guess.
They have to have typhoons and they go away from the United States, but this year
Yeah,
the end
coming
one.
toward, and, yeah,
Well,
so,
and I hate to be a rumor monger, but, I mean, I think this is scientific fact that they used to play, or they play with the weather, you know, like cloud seeding and all that. They have figured out, someone supposedly has figured out how to harness the weather and do things that they wanted. I mean, create situations like hurricanes and, you know, droughts over here and.
I will never forget when they did that whole cloud seeding in Kroll, so that because we were in such a big drought, and then like a month later Houston flooded, and I couldn't help but think that's because they did the cloud seeding, isn't it? It traveled all the way over there and just flooded.
wind blew it. But, you know, that is, again, goes back to what you said about knowledge and too much knowledge. And, you know, we can be, I mean, should we even be having knowledge like that? I don't think so, because there's no way.
Playing God.
What,
I mean,
you know, yeah, you're playing,
playing
yeah.
with the natural things, and I really honestly believe that there are people who are experimenting with this. Now, whether they've achieved success or not, but yeah.
There was one crazy person, an archer, that thought they installed the windmill farms to control the weather by blowing the storms away when they don't want them.
Come on to Amarillo, or
There's always been
Oklahoma.
so much that's kept, secret until, something happens. Me and a couple of my girlfriends got together today and we were talking about the Jetsons. And the Jetsons, I was a kid, a teenager.
Yeah.
And all the stuff they had on there is happening now. That can't be a coincidence. Like, it may have taken more years for these things to come about, but these writers,
Well,
it wasn't just imagination,
We still got some time. It was like last year that they said George Jetson was born, and by the show he was like in his 40s. So we got some good time.
Exactly. They talk about FaceTime, being able to see somebody when you're talking to them.
Yeah.
All these things that I remember as a kid and think, well, it sounded so far out then. Well, wait, it's happening now. What, like?
But then we don't have the flying cars yet.
That's exactly what I was thinking, like, we do
They're
that, but we.
coming. They're coming.
Not that they're not, they haven't been experimenting.
We have cars that drive themselves.
But
That's
they
too
also-
much power too.
But they also blow up if you hit a bunny rabbit, so.
Still experimenting.
Learned that in tech stop training.
From a scientific point, I was reading this past week that the scientists that are trying to figure out how they said bodies, but they're talking about the sun, the earth, and the moon as three different things. How can they lock into the same pattern, rotate around each other, and as smart as they've gotten, every way they try to explain it mathematically, when they run the simulation, either two of them combine or one of them's kicked out. And they can't see how it's possible, but God knows how.
He does, because he made it to be perfectly in harmony.
They talk about the moon was part of the earth at one time, and something separated it. I think God made it all just like he said he did.
What do they call it, the Big Bang Theory?
Yes.
The same way that they tried to tell us about evolution, how we come from apes and monkeys and.
I can explain evolution to you. Because all they've got to have is time, that's it. So I can take all the parts of a watch and put it in a paper bag and shake it for 10,000 years, and suddenly I'll have a watch that works.
It's a little different when you've got inorganic material versus organic, but that's a good. Well, I personally, and to me, as a former science teacher, I taught a lot of evolution and Big Bang, and not really Big Bang, but if you go through and you look at how scientists say, the first animal came from where?
A fish.
They were fish that came from ocean. He made the heavens, he made the earth, and then he did this, and if you go with what the scientists say in this, they say there was an amoeba in the water that grew into this, and then it came on land. Well, if you look in Genesis, it's like he made the heavens, the earth, then he made the land and the ocean, parted them. He made the fish of the sea and the animals on the land. So even science supports, to me, it supports what you're saying. I mean, because it goes in the same order that Genesis has it in. So, of course, I always end my lecture with my kids is, you have to believe what you believe between you and God, and that's that. You have the knowledge, and I'm not a diehard creationist either, because they only believe the earth is 6,000 years old. And, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't protect that, but anyway, I don't really care either. I just, what we do with what we have now, right?
What really matters is what we believe and live.
There's always that question about Adam and Eve. They had Cain and Abel. Well, who did Cain and Abel marry? Where did the rest of the people come from? God created them.
I have
Well-
always figured that they married their sisters. I don't know.
Yeah. I wondered, so there's always those little secret things that we have to kind of go to our imagination, but what does it matter?
To know.
Exactly.
If we needed to know, it would be written down.
Yeah, because I think the Bible is all inclusive as far as like everything that ever happened, word for word. I mean, it couldn't be.
It's not a history.
No, it's not a history. You're right. It's not a history book. It's a what did Daryl Shannon think the Bible is a what? When he has on his phone. But it's so there are some things that may have happened, like Adam and Eve had more children.
Well, it says they had children for,
Yeah.
well, it said it lived for 900-something years and that they had sons and daughters. It doesn't say how many.
My great grandmother used to talk about how, times will constantly change, different things will come about. But God's word will always stay the same, and she grew up when they were still slaves. And when me and my husband got together, it was me seeing her teaching through her eyes, because she was raised in a different time where things were different. But she accepted him. And so it showed me, that even though things are this way now, it doesn't mean they're going to be this way later. But God's word's not going to change.
And I guess I've kept y'all long enough. I guess I have kept y'all long enough.
That was a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But is there really, do you think, aliens that's watching us or out there? Or do you think it's just, it's just us?
I think it's just us. 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 I
freely tell you I don't know. Somehow I have always doubted it.
But there's so much information and footage now there.
Yeah,
But
there's
that's-
lots of stuff, but they don't know what,
That's what man is leading us to do.
I don't know. The same girl that has with those churches, she says that is Satan, that is just Satan talk, that is Satan doing all of that. So I'm like, so Satan's riding around in a flying saucer? Is that how he's getting around these things?